And
No,
yes, I was. Just so you know, Thunder Rosa defeated Riho and retained her AEW Women's Championship. That's how long it's been. And now Jimmy Jacobs left. He said, "Fuck you guys."
I'm gonna bring him in.
Yeah, bring him in. Let's do this.
Bring him in.
Bring it in,
Yeah,
his
bring him in.
princess.
Well, now
Where'd he
he's
go?
Yeah,
Oh,
there
wait a
he
minute. What
is.
time is it? Hey, oh, wait a minute.
Hey,
Where'd
it's
he
our first
go?
podcast.
Hey, my hands are up here.
There we go.
14
There we
years.
go. We got him.
Front and center. Here
Jimmy,
I am.
how are you tonight, my friend?
Still alive. It's still happening for the last 41 years. Every day.
Good for you. That's big.
I got to ask you right away, Jimmy Jacobs, because I saw here recently you've been doing a lot of work up in Canada here this year with Danny Duggan.
Yeah.
Is there a connection to Danny Duggan?
Insofar as what?
I mean, have you worked with him in the past? Is it a new relationship?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I worked for Danny fairly consistently since 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I started going up to Winnipeg for his tours. He would do tours, as small as 5 days and upwards of 30 days. So
Okay.
the last maybe did 4 tours for him in the last year or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. No, that's the first thing I thought of, because Danny Duggan at a wedding recently I was at, he was referred to as my wrestling grandfather, because the guy that broke me in was broken in by Danny, and I was like, wow, I wonder if me and Jimmy Jacobs are kind of weird cousins in that respect.
Yeah, there's some sort of relationship there. Yeah, Danny's. I consider Danny one of my closest friends in wrestling. I love working for him. It's probably my favorite thing that I do in wrestling, something like that. Like, it's just like every day, new town, and like they're not like a smart audience, so you can just do pro wrestling. And I love pro wrestling. I love like house show wrestling. Like that's like where my heart is. House show wrestling, independent wrestling. So yeah, I think I did like 9 days for him in last month. January now, all throughout Ontario.
Yeah, and he's
we were
a
talking
super,
about this
super
before
good dude too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, HA.
No, I was gonna say he's a super good dude too. And you also worked Eugene on one of these tours, or worked with Eugene?
We were in a tag match in the last date of the tour.
Yeah, I also worked a tag with Eugene here like a year and a half ago, something like that. So I was like, no, it's cool, Jimmy. You're invited over for Thanksgiving. It's all right.
Well, is that Canadian Thanksgiving or the real Thanksgiving?
I'm in Minnesota, so you get the real thing here. Yeah.
No, you don't get the real thing with HK. Let's be honest. HK doesn't eat meat, so you're probably gonna get like a tofurkey. He likes to put out a nice veggie platter. Probably stuffs the turkey with like onions and stuff.
I'm okay with that. I was vegan for a couple of years.
So what made you change your mind and get smart?
Well, I get lazy with my diet. That's all. I liked being vegan, and I noticed there's a relationship between, obviously, like, people say you are what you eat, but I've noticed the reciprocal as well, or the inverse of that is kind of like you eat what you are, which is to say, it's like what my body feels compelled to take in. There's a direct relationship between that and how I feel. Like when I feel good, like when I'm taking care of myself and I feel good, like I want to eat fruit. That's like what I want to eat. There's no like, oh, I really want this shitty food. I really want this meat. Not that meat's shitty, but meat or sweets or whatever. It's like when I feel good, I want to eat fruit. Fruit, I think, is like the food. I think there's a lot of debate about what a proper diet is, and I think fruit is like the one thing that like wants to be eaten, right? Like animals don't want to be eaten, most plants don't want to be eaten. There's bitterness in different plants or different things that would dissuade potential predators from eating the plants, but fruit wants to be eaten. That's how the seeds disperse throughout nature. So I think fruit is good for you.
Yeah, I've been tracking my calories the past couple months, and yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I've been like 99% off of like anything with sugar, like chocolate. I love chocolate. I haven't really had chocolate, been staying away from it. Every once in a while, feel the need to cheat a little bit, but yeah, dude, I just wind up going to the fridge. We got grapes, we got raspberry. Raspberries are low key really good too, man. I go to town on fucking
I
raspberries.
love
Them
that.
things.
But raspberries, I'm a big like plum guy. I love figs.
Oh, figs are good too, man.
I just bought a place here in Michigan over the summer. I planted one fig. It could be a fig tree, but I want to plant like about like 4 or 5 more. I have a few in my property down in Georgia. I've got some figs and a bunch of different stuff down there.
Yeah, especially in a cold climate though. Like figs are a lot of work. You got to keep them covered. You got to make sure they're okay in the winter. Stuff like that.
Well, I didn't do that. I didn't wrap it in a burlap thing. So I don't know. Hopefully the one out there is fine. But I'm gonna be the crazy like fruit tree guy. Like I said, I just bought this place, and all around the property and all on the 2 sides of the house, I've got like blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, sort of bushes. They're small now, but eventually, in some decades, somebody will hopefully be in this house, and they'll be able to.
Yeah, I found out. I've been in my house. It's close to 20 years now, and I had met like people who own the house like when it was first built, like in the 50s, and they were telling me like we had apple trees in the yard, pear trees, and I'm just like, who was the asshole that cut this shit down? Like that sounds amazing.
Right? Yeah, I don't know why you would plant another tree but a fruit tree. It's like, where are all the fruit trees, man? Like, that's how it should be.
Yeah, the lady in the back, she's got a cherry tree in the yard. So like every once in a while, I'll go back there, just grab a couple. It's good times.
Love it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, KJG, you had a wrestling question?
Yeah, I guess that's what we do here. I don't know, man.
Is it though?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's 100% not what we do. We talk about figs and both figures and fruit. So we had this conversation before you joined us about structuring a card and a pay-per-view card and the possibilities of whether or not you prefer or not get-up matches, let-me-up matches. And are they essential? Do you need them to have a successful show, or can you just run the gambit of banger after banger after banger?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. There's different thought processes and different psychology for orienting a card, and everybody's got their own way they like to do it, and there's different like trends throughout time. I mean, it used to be pretty standard of like you start low and you build, and that's the pace of the card. And then 20 or 30 years ago, it was like when I attribute it to Brian Pillman and Jushin Liger, right? Like you open up the show with a banger, and that sort of became the in vogue. If you notice on Tony's cards on AEW, a lot of times he likes to stack like the last 3 matches as like the biggest bangers you can have. I mean, there's people that have the psychology sometimes of sort of like you build to the first half and then you bring it down and then build to the main event. So it's just there's no right answer to that. Do you need a down? You don't need, but depending on the psychology of how you're orienting your card, it can be useful.
Who would make that final call though? Obviously, probably the head of any company that you're working for at the time would make that call.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What if you're making the call? What's your preference? Because I know a lot of people loved last night's AEW show, but it seems like like 30 minutes, they could have used a little bit of a let up at some point.
Yeah. I mean, Tony's a maniac, man. I love it. I don't say that disparagingly. He loves pro wrestling, freaking loves it, and he just wants like the most best pro wrestling as possible. Like that's really how he tends to do a lot of stuff. It's like give me the most, give me the best, and he, I think he, books for the sort of fans like him that are like just like they just want more pro wrestling and the best pro wrestling. Give it all to me, and like there's a place for that.
Can you speak a little bit to the different positions there are backstage in a wrestling locker room? Like I've been in production meetings for independent wrestling shows, right? You have like a producer and a writer. Is there that big of a difference between a writer and a producer, or are those job titles kind of, in sync?
I mean, the term producer is used for like kind of like a lot of different roles in pro wrestling. Obviously it can mean a producer in the sense of what it's typically the typical definition, right? So if I'm producing a pre-tape, it's my job to coordinate with the props people and the lighting guys and the camera guys, right? Like I have ownership of it if I'm producing a pre-tape. Producer is also used in terms of like guys in the studio who produce the pre-tapes and the packages and things like that. It's also used as a term sometimes interchangeably, like in AEW they call them coaches. In WWE they refer to them as producers. They used to be agents, but the guys that have ownership of coordinating a match. So in WWE there's a distinct difference between writers and wrestling producers, which is in WWE, at least when I was there, the writers dealt with basically everything except the physicality. Like once if there's any sort of physicality, you need someone else in there to help coordinate. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of different roles for guys who produce stuff backstage.
With all the roles that you've had within pro wrestling, is there one that you prefer? Do you prefer just going out and wrestling? You said, doing the shots with Duggan there, you love that, but like, is there a role that you kind of feel is kind of your home?
That honestly, yeah. like doing like house show indie wrestling, like that's probably like where my heart is. Like that's what I love. Like when I go up and work for Danny, when I'm there, I'm just like, this is where I want to be. I just want to be on the road, not having the pressure of outperforming everybody. When you're working from these smart audiences or audiences that just have seen more wrestling, where you have to like try to show them something they've never seen before. It's not that. It's not the high pressure of live television. It's just like it's having fun. So that's my favorite, but there's pros and cons for all the different things I've done.
So other than the name of the title, creative team, what is, other than the word creative, what is the most important trait you would look for on a resume for someone to be on a creative team?
Okay. There's different roles just even on a creative team. I'm not going to harp on this, but like, I was on the creative team in AEW, but I wasn't writing the TV like most people would think when they think of the idea of creative. So it depends on what like role you take, basically. I have a creative component to myself, and I'm also like fairly organized and like left brain, structure. Like I'm good at that. So like that's something, like that's a role for somebody who's just like organized and kind of like put things together nicely and neatly. Like I personally, for me, I like people I can just count on. That's what I like. What I look for in a locker room is people I can trust, and that trust is on various levels. But if I can trust you to show up on time, do what you're asked, like that's big right there. I can just count on you. I mean, that was a lot of my career, honestly. Like a lot of my career was just I was like reliable. Like I was there, and you could count on me to not just show up, but to do whatever needed to be done fairly well. Like just like that sort of consistency. That's an important quality. You look for people you can trust. Not just that level, but the level of like just like pulling things off. Can I trust this guy to get the heat? Can I trust this guy to cut this promo to sell this thing? So like trust is such a you can't understate the importance of trust when you have a team. When you're all working in harmony to do something. Trust is it, man.
When you talk about like the creative side of things and your creative side, right? Because I think that from what I understand, you had a big hand in the List of Jericho, which is personally my favorite version of Jericho that we've ever seen. And you from what I read, at least you had a real pivotal hand in that. Is that high on your list of things that you've contributed creatively to professional wrestling? Because there's a lot of things you have contributed to.
Yeah, certainly it is, man. It's hard to again, people just don't have a great conception of what writers and the creative team and bookers like do. It's hard to like take credit for something as someone in creative, especially when you have like a team and like you're not the head of it. Like right. It's like you're playing a role of like collaboration. And so yeah, like I've had ideas and the ideas have contributed to stuff that's been on screen, but it's hard to go like, this is what I've done and this is what I take credit for. Like, yeah, I had the conception of the List of Jericho was my idea, and I had a big hand in all of this stuff with Kevin and Chris, and certainly that's the stuff I'm most proud of that I did in WWE. But again, that doesn't work without Chris. Like my idea for the list was like it's like a crumbled up piece of paper, and like he pulls it out. It's like, you know what? Right? That was my idea. And he's like, no, it needs to be visual. I want to be able to hit people with it, So he comes up with this. He comes up with the, you know what happens when you make fun of Chris Jericho's best friends? Like it's like you can't. It's so collaborative, and one of the biggest differences between being in creative and being performers, the buck stops with you as a performer. Like the buck stops with you. Like I can say whatever as a writer or producer. The booker can tell you whatever. The cameras can be whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like you go out there and you deliver something as a performer. So yeah. The List of Jericho and all the stuff with Chris and Kevin is certainly one of my favorite things. And one of my favorite things that I was a part of too that I know a lot of people don't like was like the in Impact the what was it called, the Undead Realm, like the Undead Realm stuff. And people might not, that might not be your cup of tea, and that's fine. If people want to, like, yeah, I liked it. It's one of the most archetypical stories that's like ever been told in pro wrestling. Like the first one where Allie goes down basically into hell to rescue Kiera Hogan. It's like the story it's called the Catabasis, the descent into hell story. It's a story that dates like 3,000 years old, and the Mesopotamian myths of Ishtar. Like this is like I'm grateful I got to tell a story where a protagonist has to go down into hell and rescue someone and come back, and in that she fractures her soul. Then at the end, to bring her soul back together and create this wholeness, she has to sacrifice herself out of love for her friend. Like
that was big.
I got to tell that story, and it's one of my favorite things to be able to do that, to tell a story that was so archetypical and had the true theme of self-sacrifice for love, creating wholeness in a human. Like that's I love that. So yeah, the List of Jericho and the Undead Realm.
Do you have to be a wrestling fan to write for pro wrestling?
I think it helps. I mean, you got to understand it. You have to understand storytelling, and you have to understand the medium, right? Like pro wrestling television is a particular medium of art and obviously business as well. But if you're in the artistic sense, yeah, it's a medium that you have to know how to use.
Fair.
I was a big fan of you in ROH for so many years. What are some of the things you're most proud of? Because you were there for a long time and involved in a lot of big stuff. What would some of the things you're most proud of be there?
The Ballad of Lacey.
Definitely.
Just the whole Lacey storyline. Yeah, I really like that. It was the first thing on a major wrestling company that I really got to sink my teeth into, and Ring of Honor was a platform that was big enough where we had a diehard audience that paid attention to everything, but it was a small enough platform where we had basically as much creative liberty as we wanted. We weren't serving the masters of television and sponsors, and this has to be a certain time because of TV. So there was just a lot of creative freedom there, and yeah, the 3 music videos I did for Lacey. Yeah, I like that a lot. One of the things I like that I don't think other people particularly, people don't talk about it, it's not really noteworthy, was The Decade, which with me and BJ Whitmer and Roderick Strong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was all great, but I liked the stories we were telling there, where we had Adam Page as our young boy and TD Tadarius Thomas also as our young boy. We had a thing we did Pittsburgh, and we pitted our 2 young boys against each other, and we're there watching this human cockfight. So I thought there was some it's not the best stuff, but some of the storytelling in there I enjoyed as well. And obviously, the Age of the Fall stuff, there's some good stuff in there too. The stuff with Scum. Yeah, I did do a lot in ROH, and yeah, even the Huss stuff with Alex Shelley. It wasn't that deep of a story, but we got to do that a little bit. And I was young. I was 19 or 20, doing that, sort of cutting my teeth a little bit. So yeah.
I remember being at one where you, I think it was you and Cabana, and you got to be managed by Bobby Heenan. And I was like, this is really great.
Right. That was the
really
first match. That was the first match ever that had Bobby Heenan on one side and Jim Cornette on the other side.
Yeah.
It's such it's me and Cabana versus Roderick Strong and Jack Evans, a real kingdom as in New Jersey. I got to do a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah, Bobby Heenan was with us there. Bobby Heenan also did commentary on one of my matches in IWA Mid-South when I was 19 or 20. Back when I had the furry boots, he called them Hair Jordans. After the match, I asked him for any advice. He told me to quit the business. So it was.
Now, how long ago was? Because I'm a Minnesota guy. We're about the same age. I know I saw you perform at MPW, and it had to be maybe 20 years ago, something like that. I mean, because you did quite a few shots in Minnesota that I can remember that I was in attendance for. So a roundabout way to get to the question for me, right? Because I just recently, probably within the last 5-6 years, got into wrestling, got into the business. But for me, watching a guy like you that I saw 20 plus years ago, wrestling in Minnesota, you're a success, right? To me, you're a huge success in wrestling. do you consider yourself that, or what is success to you? Because I sit back and I go, this is a guy that did it, right? This is a guy that I saw that did it. He made it. He's successful in this business. Do you see yourself that way?
I have a complicated relationship probably with my career.
Okay.
There's a part of me that, sees me going to WWE as a writer as like a consolation prize. Like, hey, you didn't put in the work to perform at this level, but you're good enough, you might have enough ideas or smart enough to be over here. So yeah, there's definitely a part of me that sees that struggles with the fact that I didn't put in the work to get my body in the shape it needed to be in, or even just up my in-ring game as much as I could have to be there, next to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and those guys. I would have liked I just wanted like a little WWE TV run so I could then go to the indies and like be like, I would
get that bump, right? Yeah.
I would be a great ex WWE wrestler. If you see me like, oh, it's former WWE star Jimmy Jacobs, and you see me perform, you go, oh look, he still kind of looks like him, and oh, he's still kind of he works hard. Like I work hard like for an ex WWE wrestler. Like I give more than you're probably expecting for a guy that's not on TV anymore. Like that's I would have liked to do more as a performer in my career, and I didn't because I didn't put in the work, and I struggle with that.
Yeah, wow.
All right, Jimmy.
I think you're such a success, man. You've done amazing things and contributed so much. So to me, my book, you're a success, man, through and through.
Thank you. And look, I am grateful for what I have done and what I've gotten to do, and see wrestling from a different perspective of like going, behind the scenes and as a writer, and being on like the office side of things, which really opened up my eyes to a lot of wrestling. Just the perspective I have that just if you've just been in the ring, you don't have that same more full understanding. So I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for the stuff I got to be a part of, and that wrestling has paid my bills for the last 20 years, and I'm very grateful that I have to the best of my knowledge, at least, the respect of my peers. I think I have a reputation with my peers that's positive, and so the respect of those people means a lot to me.
All right, Jimmy, we're going to hit the chat for some fan questions right now. So SJ asks, what's up, Jimmy? I've seen you in Winnipeg at CWE, and I forgot to ask you, how did you come up with the name The Zombie Princess?
So I had a friend 20 years ago that, to sort of, as a term of endearment, but kind of teasing me, would call me princess, because it's like, because I was just like, oh, whatever princess wants. When I would be like, not demanding, but I want stuff, or hey, can you do this, whatever. It's like, oh, whatever, anything for princess. And I liked that name, and I was like, man, that's like, shit. I wish my wrestling name was just like Princess. And then in 2019, 2009, 8, 7. When was Age of the Fall? Somewhere around there, like Age of the Fall, a little after Age of the Fall, probably like 09. I was trying to figure out what to do next. Like, I was thinking about, like, I just had this idea for like this, like, grungy, like effeminate, like the name I had wanted was Princess Heroine. So just think of
Yeah,
Princess Heroine, right? Like an effeminate guy who's like on the streets and partied all night at Studio 54 and is like, one of these guys. And yeah, I was doing a story with Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor, and he had made fun of like my nail polish, my eyeliner. I cut a promo saying like, "Hey, I don't need to look tough or dress tough. I am tough. I can put on a tutu and tiara, call myself a princess. I'll still be the toughest guy in the room because right when you think I'm dead, I come back to life. Like I'm a motherfucking zombie princess." And that's where it came from.
That's sick. Mats Bach chiming in. He said that he's been on record several times saying that you should write a book. If you were going to write a book, would it be a biography, or could you conjure up some fiction novels?
Biography seems so self-indulgent, and I don't know what my story is. I don't know what the story of my life is. I don't. I wrote a short story recently that I posted on my podcast channel, which I just like. I'm sparingly putting out some stuff just so I have an outlet. Should I want an outlet? So if you look up "Our Universe is Mental" on any podcasting platform, I wrote a little short story called "Nothing and Everything." It's like I just sat down and went, what would, if I was to write a creation story, what would it be? And with that in mind, I just sat down, and for the first time in my life, like I just wrote for the sake of writing, not for TV or for school or for a journal, but just to write a story. And I wrote a little a little story, a little like story of creation and about reality. And I wrote another short story recently that I haven't released anywhere about. I entitled it "Throneness." So you guys, are you familiar with the term "throneness"?
I am not.
It's I forget what philosopher came up with the idea, but it's the idea of like being like the disorientation of being thrown into existence. It's like you didn't ask for it, you got thrown into beingness. And the first time I heard that term, I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like, I just like got dumped into this realm we're in, like with no map of anything. And I feel like I've been thrown into reality. So I wrote a little short story, like a caricature of my birth that I might release it at some point. But a full book, I'm not sure I have I don't have the vision for it. Not currently.
Martin Heidegger rings a bell. German philosopher.
Yeah. I think that's right. Heidegger.
Have you ever had any experience working with, I guess, the new head writer of SmackDown, Road Dogg? Did you work with Road Dogg? Were you there with him at the time?
I was there at WWE with him. We were on the Indies together. Like, I knew him when he was a drug addict piece of shit, and I know he's a piece of shit. Right? He's not right.
All right, we got our headline.
That's how it is, man. People just like it's brutal, man. It's brutal how people will take like an out of context clip or phrase and just like put it as a headline. And whatever. Road Dogg's great. Yeah. He went to bat for me when I was trying to get a job with WWE. I think he's great, man. He's very creative. When I was working for Impact, him and his brother Scott came in for one show, and I was hoping that we would acquire them, but I think they went. At least Brian went back to WWE at that point. Yeah, he's a great asset to have on the team.
With you kind of back on the indie scene, is that where you see yourself staying? Are you looking to get back into a creative role with one of the bigger companies? Is it? I mean, it seems like you really love the performance piece of being on the indies, and I'm sure probably the freedom of being on the indies is pretty huge too. But I mean, do you have a next horizon for yourself?
When I left AEW, which is a difficult decision, I said I need like 4 to 6 weeks, just like off completely, and I'm gonna reevaluate things. It's been 5 months, and I don't know what I'm doing. I had pictured 5 months ago that in a month or two I'll go and I'll figure out what's next. I assumed that I would go back and work for one of the 3 major companies, but I don't know what I'm doing with my life. That's the truth. So I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know if I'm gonna. I had a match on Saturday here in Detroit, and I got I don't have anything else booked, and I thought, there's a non-0% chance that this is my last match. I don't know. I'm retired, but like I just don't know what I'm doing next, and I'm doing my best to take my hands off the steering wheel of my life and realign myself with the forces of nature, with the spirit that animates reality, and seeing where that takes me. And I have no idea where it's going to.
And you're okay with the not knowing?
Am I okay with it?
That sounded like it was like a childish question, but I really actually
yeah. Well, look, we all, I think, to some degree, live under the delusion that we have like control over our lives and we know what's next, and it gives our little human brains comfort to have the familiarity and thinking we know what's next. But the truth is, we never know what's on the horizon. That the future itself is a mystery until you're there, and all of existence is a mystery fundamentally. So you can either avoid the foolishly try to avoid the unknown, which you can't, or you can jump out of the plane and trust that you can fly, or trust that you'll land safely. And that's what I'm doing. That when I left AEW, it was like it was like an exercise in trust. Going, I know that this isn't for me right now, being at this job. I don't know what's next. And I'm not even prepared for it. I just bought a house. I don't have money saved. Like, I'm not comfortable. I'm not, but it's about time, I think, in my life that I grow up and embrace the unknown.
I respect that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, I know we were talking about fruits earlier. Motzbach also wants to know, what's your thought on dates? My wife loves them, but I'm not sold.
Are dates, are they always dried? Is that the define, or can you have non-dried dates?
I've never had a non-dried date. Yeah.
Yeah, my dates are usually pretty wet.
Yikes!
Yeah, I don't know. That's good. I don't know about it. Yeah, I don't like. A raisin is like by definition a dried grape. Is a date like a dried, or a date on its own is? I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
Who's looking up dates?
Yeah, prunes. I know prune's a dried fruit.
Prune it.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, one of the wizards is not here with us tonight, and I think it's fair to ask the question that he asks all of our guests.
Oh boy!
So you may have a special answer, but it's not a special question anymore. When was the last time you shit your pants?
I think, it's been like 10 years. I think.
Okay, in the ring, out of the ring. You had an oopsie over breakfast.
I've never shit my pants in the ring.
Okay.
Ian Rotten said, "You're not a real wrestler until you shit your pants." There's been many a night where I thought, this is going to be the night I become a real wrestler. In 2005, I shit my pants like 4 or 5 times. It was really once at my brother's rehearsal dinner for his wedding.
I think that's got you beat, Tony.
The last time I shit my pants was Christmas 2 years ago. having breakfast, and that wasn't the first time I shit my pants on Christmas either.
Well, it's a Christmas tradition.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been 15 months. I don't think I'm the most recent wizard shitter either. Didn't Matt
No,
reset
Matt-
his clock?
And Matt
Yeah,
at
porta
the
potty.
food truck.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this fucking chode shits his pants while he's working a food truck, goes into a porta potty, washes his pants, and keeps them, and brings them home so he can reuse them.
No, the last time I shit my, I got
Oh
it.
no!
Reminded me, yeah. No, the last time I shit myself was at AEW. We in Toledo. So this was, I think whatever that Toledo date was, and I didn't even realize I did it. Like I was like, oh, there's like this is uncomfortable, and I went to the bathroom. I was like, how did this happen?
Did anybody tell? Did anyone like smarten you up?
I mean,
No.
not. It wasn't. It didn't get on my pants. Just my underwear.
Okay.
Okay, so you had a rescue mission.
Right. That was recent.
By the way, if you had shit your pants in an IWA ring, I mean, how much worse could that have made it at that point?
The ring? No, I'm sure the ring's just full of shit stains.
Wow. Just when you think the interview couldn't get any better, it just does. It just does.
Hey man, AEW in Toledo. How could you top that?
Outstanding.
My goodness. Jimmy, can you let everybody know what you've got going on right now? What's coming up in the future? Dates, appearances?
I've been helping Scott Demore out with the Maple Leaf Pro.
Yes.
So we've got 2 events in Windsor this weekend, and he's got, he's got 2 events this weekend. I'm going into I believe the Lima Wrestling Hall of Fame on May 31st. So this is a stage of my career that I'm at, where when I got to the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame, was it last 2 years ago for GCW? So like that's the stage of my career that I'm in. Like people are giving me like sort of these consolation prizes to go, hey, your career's over. Here you go.
There's a ton of guys out there would kill for some of those consolation prizes, man.
So yeah, like I said, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. It's gonna be my last interview I ever do. I don't know.
Can we get another song about Lacey if that's going to be a wrap?
Another song about Lacey?
I got to tell you, man, like Ring of Honor back in the day, like I watched Dribs and Drabs a bit, but Lacey was like, can't miss. Sorry. I was a huge fan.
Yeah, that's fun stuff.
I became a Jimmy Jacobs fan by proxy thanks to Lacey. So thank her for making me a fan of yours.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And now I just made everything really fucking awkward. With that, I turn it over. Fellas, we got anything else before we let Jimmy go for the evening?
Nah, this was an honor, man. This was a pleasure.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
We really do appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us, for knuckleheads who love professional wrestling and admire what you've done in the business, both in the ring and outside of the ring. So we appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you guys. I appreciate the invitation and the support. And
And I really hope this wasn't your last interview. But if you do decide to do a last interview or an interview in between from now to the last interview, come on back. We'd love to have you.
I don't mean to be like I think doom and gloom or like I'm not saying it as like a this might be it, guys. I'm just sort of speaking matter of factly. Like the last 5 months has been. This is the first break I've ever taken in wrestling, and I've just been, it's like go, like just for the last 26 years, man. And, recalibrating to a life where I'm stationary has been an adventure unto itself. And so I'm open to wherever the cosmos lead me next.
Well, we appreciate you. We've appreciated everything that you've done for this business, where it's taken you. We appreciate the fact that you're going into the Lima Wrestling Hall of Fame. And we will always appreciate you coming back on the show, man. We loved having you. This was great. You got an open invitation. Anytime you want to come back, shoot the shit. Give us an update on the trees in the yard, man. I'd love to hear it. And I mean that with sincerity, man. I'd love to hear it.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Jimmy, thanks for joining us again, brother. Be
Thanks
well.
a lot, Jimmy.
Bye, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Jimmy Jacobs, everyone.
That was fun, man.
That was awesome.
Blast. Yeah.
I'll tell you
Fanboy
what.
moment for sure.
Yeah, Brundle, I'll tell you guys something.